This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
What is up, everybody? Oh, what a weekend. What a day. And what a fun show we've got coming up on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Bombers are off to the Grey Cup. Jets with a perfect weekend with two big wins at home, capped off by their win last night over the Toronto Maple Leafs. And all is good in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Welcome to the program, everybody. Andrew Paterson along with Michael Remis. And hey, just as we planned it, a fun show on Monday. Good things happening for the hockey team and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers with a win in the West Final in an environment, an atmosphere, a crowd, and a game that nobody that was at IG Field yesterday will ever forget. We're going to chop it up with Jeff Hamilton. We'll hear from some of the Bombers, some of the big quotes after the game as well. And, of course, we'll dive into everything that happened with the Winnipeg Jets on the weekend. Coming into the program, do want to thank all the sponsors that make Winnipeg Sports Talk happen every day, including our newest sponsor, the gang over at F Apparel. Great to have Andrew and the gang on board with us. Culligan Water, Vita Health Fresh Market, Manitoba Battery, Royal Sports, Not AutoCorp, Little Brown Jug, Princess Auto, Boston Pizza, the Nick and Nicky DQ Group, Canadian Club Whiskey. A lot of that consumed yesterday at IG Field, I think. And, of course, our betting partner at Cool Bet Canada. As I mentioned, Jeff Hamilton from the Free Press coming on the program a little later on. We'll focus on Bombers, but we'll also get to some Jets talk as well. And a big shout out to everybody that is in the chat with us. An early arriving crowd today. I think people are quite excited to talk about what happened yesterday, both at the football stadium and at the arena downtown. And if you were at the games, let's get some comments in about how you're doing. And have you warmed up yet? I'll be honest, it took me a little while. I'm not sure I'm back to full warmth, but my insides are warm because of what a special day that was. Let's get Remis in here, who was also at the game yesterday. Remo, how are you doing? And man, what, as I said, a day that no one will ever forget if they were there yesterday.
Yeah, that was a crazy one. Huss, that was a crazy one. I've been to some cold games. I've been to the 2011 East Final at the old stadium, the 2016 Grey Cup here, which for that one I was I think I was sick for a week after. Yesterday was cold. I think I was better prepared, having experienced some of them, but man, it was rough. I tweeted out a box of those like Lil Hotties thing that you shake up and put in your clothes. Did you bring them? Oh, my wife like brought in a backpack like full of them. I was putting them in my boots, put them in like every pocket I had, put them in my gloves. They were everywhere. They're a lot more effective when you're like in room temperature, not when it's minus 20 with the wind outside. But it was cold. But I mean, I could not believe the crowd, Huss. There were people there with their shirts off. Which is
psychos. Complete psychos.
I mean, I saw a guy there not wearing a toque, and I'm like, this guy's not wearing a toque. How crazy! Like, that's how cold it was. It was insane. I still can't believe they played football in that. It was ridiculous, but what an experience. You know, we talked about this. Credit to the Bombers. DJs just pumping music every time there was a stoppage. You know, people were trying to dance, trying to move around. I walked around the concourse, and normally you're in the concourse, like, and you can't move. You're kind of getting claustrophobic. You're like, this is terrible, but it was actually warm in there, so I didn't mind it. But it was, aside from I know we haven't really touched on the game at all. The game was dramatic and incredible, but the experience was, I don't think we'll ever be at a game like that. December football, I think it should be, December football probably illegal in Winnipeg going forward. There should be a law. But what an experience.
You know what? It worked out okay. It worked out okay for everybody involved. Just looking at the chat, TB Covers got to meet Hustler last night at the game. What a nice dude. Hey, great to meet you, TB Covers. It was an awesome night. I met so many people. The Spratt boys popped by and said hi. It was great to see them. I had a beer with Arthur Bignell, great supporter. I'm just seeing everyone there, and both at the football game and the hockey game afterwards made it. And listen, we will get to the game, but we cannot start this program without talking about the crowd. I mean, anyone that was there, I think you knew that you were part of something incredibly special. And I mean, add to it that it was Blake Wheeler's 1,000th game, and we had the Jet game afterwards. But just the Bomber game itself, 3 o'clock kickoff, cold as hell, and that wind. I mean, I was at the top of section 101, which is sort of at that northeast corner where the doors come in, sort of facing Investors Group Athletic Center and the new Active Living Center. I mean, I may as well have been standing in a wind tunnel for 3 hours. I mean, it was. We paid the price to be out there. But as you mentioned, Reem, I mean, between the music that they were pumping between every play, which was necessary. I mean, you saw the players sort of grooving around. I mean, I didn't see anybody sit down the entire afternoon. I mean, part of it, I'm sure they were fired up about the game. But I mean, let's face it, in those conditions, you needed to be moving around, trying to generate heat. And it kind of turned into a massive dance party at times, even though it was so incredibly tense. I mean, it probably would have been a little different if the Bombers were running away with it and they were up 20 in the fourth quarter. I think you would have seen a lot of people going, okay, great, they're winning. I'm getting the hell out of here. That didn't happen yesterday because, I mean, this game, due to some self-inflicted issues with the Bombers and holding on to the football in the first half, made it a very close game. But my memories, and again, we'll get into the game and what the team was able to do coming back after a very uncharacteristically sloppy first half. My memories are going to be about the atmosphere, the people there, and the way that the Winnipeg Blue Bomber fans supported that team. And I tweeted this out on the weekend, Reem. I think it was before the game. But honestly, I cannot remember a more special connection between a team and its fans in Winnipeg in my lifetime than what's going on with this team right now. I mean, they embrace it. Willie Jefferson went on IG Live after the game from his car. The Jets Pope was on his show. I think Blue Bomber History, a bunch of guys that we know from popping in. I mean, where else would that happen? Nowhere. And then you add in Lucky Whitehead, former Bomber, now an MOP candidate or nominee from the BC Lions, hanging out in section 141 with all the maniacs in the end zone last night. And at one point, I believe, taking off his shirt and putting on a fur coat a la Chris Streveler. I mean, you can't even make this stuff up. It is what makes the CFL incredible. What makes the Winnipeg Blue Bombers right now in 2021 the model franchise in the Canadian Football League. And I'll tell you what, it's been really cool to see what this team's done on the field, but there's something more to it. And obviously winning in 2019 was a big part of it. We all remember that incredible parade and celebration. And I'll tell you what, I hope we're having one next week because this city deserves it. The fans that were out at that stadium deserve it. And I'll tell you what, the players on this football team do as well. They've got a big matchup against the Hamilton Tiger Cats, who are going to be playing at home. And we'll have a lot of time to spend this week getting ready for the big game on Sunday. But today, to be honest, Remo, it's all about what was a super Sunday in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and one that I'm happy I was a part of in the stands. I'm happy I made it to both games, and it's something that I absolutely will never forget.
Yeah. First off, is there an alarm going on behind you or something? I'm not sure. I keep hearing something.
You know what? It's not an alarm. It's not an alarm. I think there's a poorly timed construction job that might be planning somewhere in the somewhere near this wing of the WST operation.
Yeah,
so we'll see what happens. But yeah, no, I don't need to leave anytime soon.
Very faintly. We do have some. I see people mentioning in the chat. We do have some breaking Jets news. Riley Nash has been placed on waivers. I don't think that's a surprise, but maybe it's time to fire up the Gus bus, possibly. But we'll get to that later. We're talking about the Bomber game. As far as the game goes, got off to a great start. I mean, you have the red zone opportunities. One of them, Zach Claros places the ball, receiver's hands, bounces like the most unfortunate bounce out of his arms into Saskatchewan DB. Drew Wolodarski is going to, he's at like the one trying to stretch in. And ball gets knocked out. And I was in my section and be like, oh no, he was down. This is getting called back. I was like, why is this guy even running down the field? I'm like, guys, it's fine. And then they showed the replay. I was like, oh no, that was definitely a fumble. Claros had a couple picks, but I mean, we heard this from O'Shea, and I can play this shortly, but I mean, they were only down. They had turned the ball over 5 times, and we're only down 3 points. I mean, their defense was a rock. They've been elite all season, and I mean, turnovers don't really matter when the other team can't cash in. There were a couple of drives where they held them to a field goal. And the game was close.
It, though.
The game was within reach.
The Bombers should have been up 14-0 3 minutes into the game, and they were down 7-0. And I mean, obviously it was concerning, but I have to admit, and I'm interested with folks that were at the game, hit me up in the chat with how you were feeling at that point. I mean, I still had an incredible amount of confidence in the Bombers that they would be able to get it done because, I mean, of the way that they were controlling the line of scrimmage, the way that they were moving the football. And I mean, admittedly, seeing the Bombers turn the ball over with some incredibly uncharacteristic mistakes was a bit of a shock. And, certainly the conditions played a role in that. But you sort of just felt that, the Bombers, led by this defense, was going to be able to make enough plays that they'd be in the game and be able to win the football game. And that is exactly what happened. But you're right. I mean, I had a number of conversations with folks at halftime when we were trying to warm up that it was the most ridiculous half of football that we've seen from this team all season long. 5 turnovers. And exactly as you just pointed out, Remo, they were down 3 points. I mean, the game was absolutely right there. And if I'm Saskatchewan, I mean, if the tables are turned, I don't know if there's any Rider fans in the chat, but would love to get your take on this. I mean, you have the good fortune of getting 5 turnovers from a team that rarely turns the football over, and you're only up 3 points. I mean, it had to be somewhat of a nervous predicament and situation. But then from the third quarter, Remo, it was the Andrew Harris show. I mean, I shouldn't say that. It was the Andrew Harris show in the first quarter as well, the first half as well. I think Darren Bombing tweeted this out. And we'll play Bob Irving's legendary final call as well. But I think you want to talk about a tribute to Bob. I think Bombing tweeted out that Harris had 68 yards rushing in the first half and 68 yards rushing in the second half for a grand total of 136. A little bit eerie, a little bit strange, but just another big part of the game yesterday. And hey, winning that line of scrimmage battle was how the Bombers beat the hell out of Hamilton in the 2019 Grey Cup. It has been the key to their victories a lot of times this year. And when it comes to playoff football in conditions like that, it is all about the line of scrimmage and holding on to the football. The Bombers didn't do that very well, but they were good enough in other aspects that they gave themselves an opportunity. And Remo, will say this, for all the talk about the running game of Andrew Harris, which was elite and the probable number one reason why the Bombers were able to win that game, there were 2 plays that stand out to me, and they were catches. Kenny Lawler in the second half on the drive that ended up getting them back to 14. And then Darvin Adams, who's had, by his standards, and I think the team standards, a very quiet season and at times disappointing, making an amazing grab late in the game to continue to move the chains and keep that offense going. To me, those 2 plays are one that maybe overlooked a little bit, but huge in the Bombers coming back and retaking the lead again and winning the football game.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think you at the halftime you were in disbelief. You're like, this team should be up. Thankfully they're only down 3. That they've done it before. They can come back. But at the same time, we've seen Bomber failure in the past, and this would be just a horrible, I don't want to say choke, but horrible missed opportunity for the team. And it was just such miserable conditions. Like, how could you? I sat there being like, how are they even functioning? How are they playing football? Like, how are guys on the field not wearing sleeves right now? Like, this is absolutely insane that they even played it. I think it's insane that they played a game, and that maybe it's just me. I don't know, but hey, they were down. They came back. Now, once they got the lead, I thought it was done. But then Duke Williams comes down and has the long touchdown, and you're like, we're in this crazy game, and like you're having kind of trouble moving the ball, but they just kept pounding it with Andrew Harris. Sean McGuire was good at short yardage when he needed to be. I kind of laugh of Sean McGuire, like the touchdown leader.
Touchdown vulture of all time. And hey, Chris Vermette in the chat mentioned Janarian Grant's return of that missed field goal out of the back out to the 39 was a huge play too. Absolutely. I mean, you knew special teams was going to be a big part of the game when it comes to punting, return game, and all of that came into play. But yeah, I thought Janarian Grant had a real strong game, and he, of course, was injured quite a bit this season. So first things first, shout out to everyone that braved the conditions yesterday and made that atmosphere what it was, one of the most special days I can remember in my lifetime. I mean, as a sports fan here in Winnipeg, I mean, such a monumental game for the Bombers against their biggest rival with a trip to the Grey Cup on the line. And then, of course, a pretty important hockey game as well for the Winnipeg Jets, which started off with Blake Wheeler's 1,000th game. We're going to get to that in just a second. Before we do that, I do want to thank our friends over at F Apparel for jumping on board with Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, F Apparel, you're probably quite familiar with it. They're dressing, many of the Jets, many of the guys that you see on the media. I know Shane Knighty was always over there getting those amazing looking suits. But it's a Winnipeg-owned business doing custom seats for men with a full line of custom clothing for any occasion, including suits, dress shirts, winter jackets, chinos, golf pants, untucked dress shoes, and more. And listen, we are getting back to normal, hopefully into 2022. And I know you may not have put on a suit for a while, but you're going to have to. Every guy really needs to have one suit that fits and looks great. And F are the guys that will be able to take care of that for you. And if you're thinking about, man, geez, that might be a great Christmas gift right now. Digital gift cards bought online up until Christmas come with a 15% discount until Christmas. So you can buy a $200 GC for only $170. You can pop in and purchase them online at F Apparel. That's EPHapparel.com. And of course, if you are planning a wedding or something into the future, but wedding parties in particular, 15% off when the group buys their suits from F Apparel. They're down at 190 Smith, and you can find them online at fapparel.com. Our friends over at Culligan Water have a lot going on for the weekend or for the month of December. And of course, with all the holiday hosting, you've probably got enough on your hands. Get a Culligan water softener and cut down on those hard water stains for sparkling clean sinks, tubs, and showers. Everyone will appreciate a holiday sparkle. Even your mother-in-law will love. And our friends at Culligan also have a great special for the month of December. Enjoy Culligan water for $9.99 for the first 3 months. Or you can give the gift of Culligan water for just $9.99 for the first 3 months. I have a feeling there's quite a bit of Culligan being drank by Bomber fans and Jet fans yesterday that may need the hydration. They're over at 1200 Sargent Avenue. You can give them a call at 204-694-5180. Tell them the guys over at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you, or find out more online at drinkculligan.com. And a big shout out to our friends at Vita Health Fresh Market. While we're talking about clean living and maybe improving ourselves for 2022, Vita Health Fresh Market is stocked with Winnipeg's best selection of local, organic, and natural groceries, supplements, and beauty products, all at great prices. An amazingly knowledgeable staff trained on these products. And if you're into organic produce, I mean, local grass-fed meats, or a great grab-and-go deli with healthy sandwiches and amazing salads on the run, Vita Health Fresh Market is the place for you. Find out what they've got going on at one of 7 Winnipeg locations, a great family-owned local company in business for 85 years, empowering people to lead healthy lives. 7 locations, including the newest store in Linden Ridge, and online at myvita.ca. So Hammer's coming up in a minute. Remo, okay, I guess before we do get to the Jets, let's, you mentioned that we do have Coach Mike O'Shea. Let's quickly hear what the coach had to say about his team's performance and the way they were able to gut out a win in a pretty wild environment yesterday at IG Field, and now have the opportunity to run it back in Hamilton next week against the Ticats.
Yeah, hold on. Here we go. Crap. I don't have something set up. Sorry, Hassler. I screwed you here. Making the show look bad. We got 400 people in one sec. I'll start it up.
There we go.
There we go. Now we're golden.
I thought Saskatchewan did a great job of getting after it. I mean, the one bobble in the end zone's a pick. The strip on the goal line. Good position on the other interception. I thought they were working hard to take the ball away. and staying after it and chasing the ball. And good things happen when you chase the ball. When you get near the ball, you can affect the play like that. Having said that, you come in at half after giving the ball away 5 times, and you're down 3. I mean, with this group, we've been down 3 before. If you just forget about how you're down 3 or why you're down 3, or forget about trying to project what you should be up or what the score should be, and you just focus on the fact that, hey, we're just down 3. Let's go. And I think our guys did a great job of that, of just moving on very quickly at halftime from all the crap.
Oh, yeah. I think I do have the alarm that's seemingly going off right now, Remo. Why don't you tee up Andrew Harris, and hopefully this noise will be will be done in just a minute. The beauty of live broadcasts when you don't know what might be happening on one side of you. Of course, Andrew Harris was the star of the game yesterday with 136 yards of rushing. He talked after the game about a very special performance and a huge win for he and his team after he'd been out of the lineup for just about 7 weeks. Okay, sure, yeah.
I thought Saskatchewan.
Sounds what it's going on right now. Unbelievable. I should go let them know. I did not get the notice that there was going to be construction going on right there. Oh, it's good. You can hear. People can't hear the alarm. That's good. It's incredibly annoying to me here, but I guess as long as it's not going over the air, that's the least thing. What clip are you playing right now?
Hey, we got a Mike O'Shea again here. Another one. One sec.
They trust each other as a team, and they have each other's backs, and that's very important. That gets tested. So don't get me wrong, that gets tested in a game like this. But if I look back at how they passed this test compared to how other teams I've been associated with would fare on that test, it was amazing. And not just the outcome, I'm talking about how they figured it out and stuck together and got it going. Right? That's 5 giveaways, or Sask 5 takeaways in the first half. That could crumble some teams, and some teams that I've been associated with. You give the ball away 5 times and we're down 3. Like, we've been here before. It's not, forget about how it happened. Move forward. Can't let many more happen. You can't go out and have the same situation in the second half, and we did. We gave the ball away again. But yeah, there's no, guys understand that. It doesn't take much. There's no yelling and screaming. They get it. It's unfortunate that we bobble a ball, or that is not good. But certainly, once again, it's not luck that our defense gets out there and holds them.
The defense has been the backbone of this team, putting up, numbers that, frankly, haven't been seen since the 50s. And I think everyone, even despite the long touchdown to Duke Williams at the end of the third quarter to put the Riders back up on top 17-14, if you were in that building and you'd followed this team all year long and you knew what the Winnipeg Blue Bombers do in the fourth quarter, you were feeling pretty good about the team's chances to win. And part of that was what the Bombers were doing on the defensive side of the football, that long play to Williams notwithstanding. The other side of it was what they were doing on offense, and, led by Andrew Harris. I saw Issue Boy Bruce mentioning that Harris is one of his favorite haunts. Nicolino's popped in there after the game and got a hero's welcome by the fans that were there afterwards, warming up, as he should have. But listen, Andrew Harris wrote another incredible chapter in his story, which is synonymous now with this football team and this city as a young man growing up in Oak Park, heading out west, coming back, and, in my opinion, being the most significant free agent signing maybe in Bomber history. And, he made some more of that history yesterday. Here is Andrew Harris, who was the Bombers' player of the game on offense.
Having the trust in the training staff and the coaching staff to take care of their players and this organization, they definitely do that. And they took care of me this week and allowed me to make sure that I was coming coming full out of steam once it was game day today. So, we did a workout this morning and I felt good. And I think sometimes your emotions and the stake of the game that elevates your play a little bit, and that's what I thought happened tonight.
You're confident you'll be able to play in 7 days in Hamilton, and do you expect a similar preparatory week?
Confident, yeah. Everything felt good today. And I think it's a bit of a different week. We're traveling and we're leaving right away, and so again, that comes down to the trust factor with the training staff and the coaching staff, and I'll just kind of follow suit and tell them how I'm feeling and go from there.
All right, so there's Andrew Harris talking about after the game. And Remo, one thing I'll tell you, Harris practiced Wednesday. The Thursday practice was closed. Eddie Tate came on with us on Friday, and we talked to Hamilton earlier in the week, and they both said that they really felt like Andrew Harris would play. But, with only one practice, I think a lot of people were wondering, well, like Ed said, the minute they saw him look as good as he did on Wednesday, they're like, all right, this guy can go. Let's not screw it up. And I don't know. I wasn't surprised that he played, and I sure as hell wasn't surprised that he played the way he did, because that's what we've come to expect from Andrew Harris, especially in big games, in cold weather games, and in playoff games like we saw throughout the 2019 season.
Yeah, if you had to craft a story as to how the Bombers were going to win, it would be most likely pounding the ball with Andrew Harris over and over again. I know he had, I think, he had one reception as well, which was huge, as it was tough to grab the ball out there, Hess. But he was so key the run game in the last Grey Cup, and now I have a chance to go back to back. And there was talk all week. I think Darren said as well he was confident. Ed said he was confident. And they announced Sunday he was a go, and you had to feel good about the team's chances, even though Augustine had run the ball great, and so had Brady Oliveira. But Andrew Harris has been the guy. He's from Winnipeg, and awesome to see him. First of all, looking great with that mustache, but also running the ball effectively for the team. It's huge.
I think it was. Phyllis mentioned. I'm convinced the fumbles happened because the frozen hands fingers. Absolutely. The weather definitely played into that, and I don't know who it was said. That Dembski play is a touchdown 99 times out of 100. And the fact that it was cold and it was windy and the hands were frozen probably led to the fact that it was a bit of a tip drill that ended up in the hands of a Ryder DB, as opposed to 6 points for the Blue Bombers. And the same thing with Wolotarski. But like what O'Shea said earlier, Remis, I give Saskatchewan a ton of credit. I think they realized that if they were going to win, a lot of things had to go their way, but they absolutely were going to have to dominate the turnover battle. And they did a great job of that. Every single time a Bomber, particularly the receivers, got it complete, they were trying to take the ball away as much as they were trying to make a tackle. And that was a huge part of those 5 turnovers in the first half. That was really the story of the game heading into the break.
Yeah, I agree. It was the turnovers, but you've kind of felt the Bombers had a chance. And once they took the lead, I figured they would be able to hold on to it. But again, the Duke Williams play, and then we did have that final drive, Fajardo. I was having flashbacks. I'm like, is he going to hit the upright here? But they didn't get close enough. They almost did get into red zone territory. I see a lot of people complaining about CFL review on the catch on the final to extend the drive just by the fingertips there. I don't know how.
What did you think? I was stunned. And again, obviously, we're all there in blue and gold. We're sort of seeing things from a particular point of view. I get it. But I've seen that over and over again. I was absolutely stunned when Andre Proulx came back onto the field and said that the ruling on the field stands and Saskatchewan would have the football. I don't know. What the hell's a catch anymore?
Yeah, I saw it on the replay. I thought it wasn't a catch, but they called it a catch. And I think that when they do these reviews, they're like, oh, that's got to be clear evidence. And I think, I saw this in the NFL last week with the Njoku catch, and yesterday that they're looking for something so obvious that because it got called a catch, they feel like they don't have enough evidence, even though when it looks like, you know what, if we can use logical reasoning here, that wasn't a catch. So I know sometimes you can't get the right angles, but I think it's pretty clear that it wasn't. They just want to stick with the call that was on the field. I was surprised when I was there, and I was like, oh, okay, well, we got a bit of a game here now.
No doubt about it. Now listen, there is still tons of hockey to talk about. A huge weekend for the Winnipeg Jets. Blake Wheeler's 1,000th game last night. Big win over the Leafs. The 8-goal outburst on Friday. We will talk about all of that coming up on the program. But, we're pushing 500 people live on YouTube right now. Hamilton's coming up. We'll focus in on the Bombers, and then we will get to the hockey story a little later on, because lots coming out of last night's game. NHL player safety is busy, and 2 big firings in the National Hockey League. So for those of you that want more Jets, hang tight, but Bombers are going to the Grey Cup. We're going to be talking about that coming up with Jeff Hamilton right now. Before we do that, this is going to be a huge week for our friends over at Royal Sports. Bombers going back to the Grey Cup. I know there were tons of folks that went in on Saturday before the game to maybe get some warm Blue Bomber gear. When it comes to a gear for your favorite local team, Royal Sports is the one and only place you'll ever need to go. Best in the biz, family owned for over 35 years when it comes to Bomber merch, Jets merch, as well as licensed merch from all of your favorite teams in all of the favorite leagues. Of course, they're Winnipeg's hockey superstore as well. Winter's here. They've got snowboarding, but I have a feeling there's going to be a ton of blue and gold coming in and out of Royal Sports over the course of the next week. So make sure you get ready for Grey Cup weekend with the gang. And I know Greg, longtime Grey Cup guy, he'll be out there as well, out in Hamilton, as so many of you. By the way, if you're going to Hamilton right now, hit us up in the chat. Let us know who's out there. We're going to try and make something happen to get out there for the weekend as well. Keep you posted on that here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. And I want to give a special shout out to Trevor Knott of Knott Auto Corp. Hopefully not like many people, victimized by some of the slipperiness of certain surfaces in Winnipeg. A little banged up, so I hope Trev's feeling better. Of course, Knott Auto Corp, great sponsors, supporters of the Bombers. Was in the Knott Loge yesterday and just had an incredible time with a great group of people. Shout out Russ Romanek. He was having a great time as well. Of course, if you're looking for a new vehicle, why not get into the car of your dreams at a great price with the help of the Knott team? And as you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, just the incredible facility they've got at Waverly and McGillivray. You really do need to see it. And of course, the Winnipeg Car Lab, which is now open as well. Find out more on everything Knott Auto Corp has going on over online at knott.ca, or see them in person at Waverly and McGillivray. And a very special happy anniversary to our friends at Little Brown Jug. It seems like a week ago that we were sitting down with Kevin Selch, doing the interview with Kevin and debuting it on Friday's program. Went to the game on Friday with Andrew Collier, the Winnipeg Gold Eyes, who, of course, do a bunch of business with Little Brown Jug as well out at the ballpark. Exciting things coming up for the baseball season as well. We'll get Andrew on to tell us about that in the coming months. But did get a chance to pop in for the 5th anniversary party before the hockey game. Was great to see everyone. Amazing turnout. And I did enjoy that special Brute IPA that has been brewed especially for the 5th anniversary. It's the champagne like extra dry IPA with flavors of citrus and stone fruit. Amazing gift ideas as well, including special gift boxes with your favorite beers and merchandise. Check it out at littlebrownjug.ca and make sure you've got your 1919s ready for Grey Cup Sunday. All right, let's get to it. Welcoming in our good friend from the Winnipeg Free Press, Jeff Hamilton. Hammer, what a day. I mean, you're a Winnipeg guy. You were there. I still just can't get over what a special atmosphere, environment that we saw yesterday, with nearly 32,000 people stepping up and showing up, supporting a team that certainly earned that support with an amazing season. But holy smokes, at halftime, you wondered, where was that team that was so good holding on to football all season? Had a little bit of everything, but I'll tell you what, everyone will be remembering that one probably as long as they live.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it's important to start with the crowd, because the crowd was just incredible. The temperatures dipped to, I mean, you were in that crowd. It was what, minus 24, 27 with wind chill. There was blowing snow. The wind was not kind. And yet you had what looked like a real packed house. You know, it looked like every seat, you know, people were obviously crowded around the concourse. So there was, you know, empty seats in some places. But when the game mattered, when the game was on the line, holy smokes, could you hear the fans, you know, cheering? You could hear them you could see them on their feet. Just an incredible outpouring of support from this fan base, and certainly lives up to the reputation of having the loudest fans in the league. But as far as a game goes, holy smokes. I mean, same fans, I imagine, were having a bit of a, battle with their hearts as, I'm sure at some point in that first half, people were wondering whether, the football gods really wanted to see the Saskatchewan Roughriders in the game, because with the turnovers that Winnipeg, committed in the first two quarters and just, having the score be so close heading into that final frame. I never really felt like it was in doubt. It always seemed like it was close enough and the Bombers would prevail, but man, did they test that theory a number of times during that game.
Hey, by the way, great to see so many people with us. If you're new, this is Winnipeg Sports Talk. We're doing this every day, live at 1 o'clock on YouTube, in your podcast feed later on in the afternoon. Do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button. And if you haven't already, definitely hit that subscribe button. Going to be a very, very fun Grey Cup week here on Winnipeg Sports Talk, and heading into next week, hopefully talking about a big win. Just back to the crowd for a minute, Hammer, because you mentioned, with some of the videos, I threw out a few shots of what it was like in the crowd. I know the Bombers did a great job of that. And you mentioned people sort of standing up. I mean, it was out of necessity. I mean, I can't remember ever a game where people stood the entire game at IG Field. You can go to some NFL stadiums, a lot of Chiefs games I've been, that's sort of what everyone does, and it's just the way it is. But unless you're in section 141, which is always on their feet all game, that's the way they do it in the end zone. That wasn't the case. But I mean, it was survival mode, I think, for most fans. And, that atmosphere, Reem and I were talking about it, whoever was DJing yesterday, just hitting banger after banger. And the players were getting into it, but the fans were doing it. And, all in all, it was, I think, what people were dealing with, maybe the players were dealing with too. You realize this was going to be a marathon of endurance by both the team and the fans. And that's why at halftime, and Remus brought this up, but I'm interested in your take on it. I mean, as bad as things had gone with 5 turnovers, the fact that this team was just down 3 points, I think, showed how well they were playing in so many other aspects of the football. And that game was absolutely there for the taking for the home team, despite everything that had happened in the first 30 minutes.
Well, there was a reason why weather was a main, or at least a high topic all week long, right? I mean, and the forecast kept changing. The temperatures got cooler, then they got warmer, then they got extremely cool, and then there was potential blizzard warnings, and then there was light snow, and then it was 2 to 4 centimeters, and then the wind chill came in, and the gusting winds. It was disaster all week, and it was and we talked about it as if it was potentially the great equalizer, and I think you saw that. I mean, the reality is, under great conditions, the more talented team wins out. So when weather affects things, it's only usually an advantage to the lesser team. And in this case, that would certainly be the Saskatchewan Roughriders, where the fans come into play, and the fact that they came out in droves, and the fact that they stood up all game, and the fact that they used their voices, that also helps alleviate some or add more pressure to the other team. So it's no small feat. What the fans were able to achieve as far as what happened on the field. I mean, I don't know if the first half was a case of, a team that had not played meaningful football for weeks after locking up the West Division, weeks prior to the end of the regular season. If it was slippery conditions and cold or what it was. But halftime, I mean, 5 turnovers and 10 points to show for it. I mean, I think that was the biggest takeaway for the Bombers in the dressing room, was how many times are we going to, commit that many mistakes and only surrender 10 points? It's an average of 2 points per turnover. I mean, the Bombers know what the benefit of turnovers are. They force the most and they score the most points off them. They know how dangerous that can be. So they didn't need to be reminded that it was a 3-point game. Now, I'm not sure how much you know about the halftime skirmish, if you will, between both sides. But Duke Williams apparently poked Brandon Alexander in the eye. And that was a big rallying point for the Bombers. I mean, they went into the room knowing that they were only down 3 points and understanding, according to Andrew Harris and Adam Bighill and those who spoke after the game, that this is what this team needs to do to win. This is what this team needs to do to gain an advantage. And it was a bit of a reality check. Now, it wasn't like the Bombers came out in the third and all of a sudden became dominant. They did commit another turnover on downs early on, but they did find their rhythm late in the game. And I think once you saw the tables turn there coming, into the fourth quarter, what we've seen from this defense, not just from this game, but what we've seen from this defense all season, and particularly in the final 15 minutes, not that it was a guarantee by any means. The Rough Riders obviously still had a chance there in that last drive, but you just kind of felt that Winnipeg was going to punch their ticket, that, whenever, however big the moment got down the stretch, that they were going to have an answer for it. And what did we see? We see Nick Taylor, make up for an earlier mistake on that Duke Williams 67-yard touchdown, get in front of Mitchell Picton and arguably end this game. So, not exactly like I wrote in my story, not exactly the way the Bombers scripted, but their storybook ending remains firmly intact here as we head to Hamilton this week.
No doubt about it. And speaking of storybook, I mean, we can't not talk about Andrew Harris's performance. And I'll give you credit. I mean, you and Ed both came on, and you said, hey, I've got no inside information, but the fact that he was out practicing looked pretty good on Wednesday. He is, I believe your quote was, it's not 100%, but I'm going to go with the 100% that Andrew Harris is playing. And he did. And Ed Tate had that same sort of confidence on Friday that he would be there. The legend of Andrew Harris as a Winnipeg Blue Bomber continues to grow in these big games, in these playoff games. He got it done yesterday. But outside of the running game and winning the line of scrimmage, which has been the foundation of the success of this Bomber team, two plays stood out to me in the second half, one on each touchdown drive, Jeff. One was a brilliant catch by Kenny Lawler on a second down, and the other was Darvin Adams, who had been a huge part of this football team in the past and had a much more diminished role this year, had missed some time. What did you think about those key plays at the time that they happened and what they were able to do to the Bombers, who were dominating on the ground, but, had obviously had issues with the passing game, considering what had happened in the first half with all the turnovers? Yeah,
those two catches were massive. They were big pieces of those drives, both of which, as you mentioned, were resulted in touchdowns. I mean, and under, we talk about the weather conditions, it isn't easy to make those catches. I mean, Kenny Lawler, sprawled backwards is hilarious too, because not even 30 seconds before, they were showing highlight reels of Kenny Lawler on the Jumbotron doing a very similar catch in the summer. And then he has this back reaching catch that, what you said on second down, which extended the drive. But not just catching the ball. He took massive contact after that hit that I thought there was no way he was holding on to it. And sure enough, it's in his breadbasket. So, and ditto with Darvin Adams. He didn't have the collision upon the catch, but he had to spread out, reach. It's great to see him, feel a part of the game. And I thought there were other examples of that in the sense of, Nick Dembski bobbling that first, what should have been a sure touchdown, an early 7-0 lead, ultimately leads to an Ed Gainey interception. Well, they go right back to him on the very next series, and he wills his way with the help of his O-line, and you got to give credit to that O-line. They were beasts again, on Sunday. Gets a first down on a run, and later on in the game makes a couple other important catches. I think he had 6 catches for 61 yards, and then it's Nick Dembski running 15 more yards to ice the game at the end of the thing, at the end of that fourth quarter there. So, guys just found ways to look past some of the mistakes. Drew Wolitarsky came up with another big catch after he fumbled. Rasheed Bailey fumbled, and he willed his way into the end zone on a great touchdown. I mean, it was just a lot of guys making big plays at big moments in the game that added up and not only won them the game, but helped them get through what was, like you said, some very sloppy play early on. And ditto for Zach Collaros. I mean, the guy was not having a great start to the game. Some of those interceptions weren't necessarily all on him. Obviously, the Dembski bobble. But, there were some that were. And yet he still continued to show a confidence of firing balls into areas and windows that had literally zero, allowed zero margin for error. He would just find those little tight windows. And that's the confidence that this team has, not just in their abilities, but in one another. You don't have a lot of guys sulk, go to the sideline and wear it the rest of the game. You have a guy disappointed, obviously. Some of those moments were certainly disappointing, but quickly erased with the support from their teammates. So that just speaks to the culture on this team, the camaraderie of this team, the support that this team shows for each other, that when games get as ugly as they did on Sunday, they're good enough, they're strong enough, they're confident enough to get through them and find a way to win.
Jeff Hamilton of the Free Press with us, breaking down the Bombers' 21-17 win over the Riders, booking their ticket to the Grey Cup rematch against the Ticats next Sunday at Tim Hortons Field in Hamilton. We've talked about Harris and Collaros and other plays. We have got to talk about the offensive line. In football, we never talk about the offensive line enough. I thought that those 5 guys up front set the tone for the football game right from the get-go in the first half. I think it was Dembski, and I can't remember whether it was a short pass or it was a run, but he was stopped about 3 yards deep, and then they basically pushed him another 10 yards. And I remember just talking to the guys that I'm with. I mean, that's the sign that these guys are ready to play. Bryant, Hardwick, Patty Neufeld. What did you think about the offensive line's performance and how dominant that was, especially in the second half when they pretty much ran the ball at will?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this has been the heart and soul of this, certainly this offense. You could argue this team. It's been one of the most consistent groups in the Canadian Football League. It's the envy of all other quarterbacks across the CFL. It creates time for Zach Collaros to make plays. A lot was made heading into this game about Cody Fajardo's ability to run, and there was some comparisons between him and Collaros, and how there was no design runs for Zach Collaros and a handful for Cody Fajardo, but he had something like 300 and something yards in just kind of, audible plays, if you will, where he just kind of takes off. It's not designed, whatever, it's the circumstance. Well, Collaros didn't have a lot of those, but that doesn't mean he doesn't run. And he ran all day long. He just runs to extend passing plays. He runs from side to side. And the only reason he can do that is because the O-line allows for him to do that. They know that he's going to do that. So they know that they need to wait a little extra long for him. They know to keep battling, that there isn't, a 3, 4, 5 second time clock, knowing that the balls, might be gone by that time. They push and they push and they push. They open up lanes. Andrew Harris had an incredible game on Sunday. 23 rushes, 136 yards, and a touchdown. His success is built primarily on the front 5, sometimes 6 guys, to open those holes, open those lanes, give him an opportunity so that, there was a couple of runs by Andrew Harris. Heck, I don't think he got touched until 8 or 9 yards past the line of scrimmage. And then he's got contact. He's got Jamarcus Hardrick on his back, giving him 2 or 3 extra ones. And every time a scrum happens, and I think the one you're referring to is the Dembski run I had mentioned before on that first play of the second series. He got hit at like 1 or 2 yards after the line of scrimmage, and then just got ushered into a first down. And my first thought is, how do you do that? Like, how do you get pushed by these large men and land on them and get, I'm amazed every time these guys get up and then do the first down sign or celebrate in some regard. But no, I mean, this is a group that it really is a massive piece of the success of this Bombers offense is the front 5 and just the time they afford, the holes that they create, and everything they do as a unit that just allows this group, Buck Pierce, Buck Pierce playbook to flourish. And again, it just all starts in the trenches. You win and lose games in the trenches. And if you're the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, you got to be happy about both lines on offense and defense.
Just looking at the chat, Waiters 27. Anyone call in sick for work today after yesterday's entertainment? I have a feeling there might be 1 or 2 that didn't make it in today. And hey, by the way, if you did make it to both games,
good for you.
Pop that into chat yesterday. I got to tell you, Hammer. So leaving the game afterwards, walking out of the stadium towards the transit areas. I mean, it was festive, but people were freezing, obviously, and they were looking forward to getting inside. But I got to tell you, I mean, the atmosphere on the bus after the game of everyone both kind of getting a little bit warm and then kind of getting the energy back up to really let her loose. It carried over into the arena downtown, and especially, and we're going to get to Blake Wheeler's 1,000th game, the ceremony and all that. But that was a vibe that I think a lot of people will be holding on to, hopefully right through this weekend when, of course, the Bombers will be taking on the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Let me ask you this, though, about the performance yesterday. I will make an argument that with what happened to the Bombers might actually be a good thing for them going into this game against the Ticats on the weekend. No team's going to be perfect throughout the entire year. They certainly were far from perfect yesterday, especially in the first half. But I have to think that the Bombers, especially with the lessons learned yesterday, are not going to be turning the football over and doing favors for the Hamilton Tiger Cats like they did for the Riders yesterday. And to me, that might make them a more dangerous team because make no mistake about it. I mean, yeah, they've been favored. Everyone thinks that they're the best team in the league. They're going up against a Hamilton team that's got a lot of momentum coming out of that win yesterday against Toronto. They're playing at home. I mean, there's a lot of things that make this a very unique challenge for a Bomber team that's been so good so far this year. But, I think they sort of got away with one yesterday in a lot of aspects of it. And I don't expect that to happen 2 weeks in a row for this football team.
Yeah, I asked that exact question to Mike O'Shea after the game. I said, can you, I didn't use the word silver linings, but I said, can you, because obviously they won, but can you learn from this? Can this be a positive? The fact that, you committed so many mistakes and still won. And he said, absolutely. I actually was kind of surprised by that answer from him because he doesn't usually suggest as much, but I felt like, I don't think they needed a reality check. I don't think they needed to be humbled necessarily. I think they do a good job of in their preparation and whatever, but I do think they had a bit of a scare, and I think a scare will certainly help them. I think they came to realize how important clean football is. If they didn't know that already, which is hammered into them by Mike O'Shea week in and week out, clean football is one of the more common things that certainly Mike O'Shea preaches week in and week out. So, just reminders, right? Reminders that it can be taken away from you, reminders of protecting the ball, things that you can be told over and over in practice, but to see kind of some of the negative consequences in a game is just going to, is the ultimate reminder. So I do think this bodes well for them. I do think that they're going to enter Hamilton not feeling like the crazy, favorites. I know they're currently favored, on betting sites and whatever. I think they got the Bombers at -4.5 right now, but I don't think they're going to go into Hamilton thinking they're going to be favorites, knowing that they're going to be up against a hardcore, raucous Hamilton fan base that's going to certainly pack Tim Hortons Field. Mike O'Shea even said yesterday, in 2019, he felt like they were at home. Like he felt like in warm-up that with the fan support they had from Bomber fans and fans in general, they felt that they were playing almost a home game. They're not going to feel that way in Hamilton on Sunday. It's going to be the exact opposite. They're going to be the undisputed visitors of that game. So I do think what they went through on Sunday, the fact that they're playing against the host team, something that I was on this show either last week or a week before. This is the team the Bombers were worried about, not just from their talent, but from the idea that they will be hosting the Grey Cup, and it's not just. I mean, it's everything, right? I mean, it's sleeping in your own bed. It's having having your own facilities, obviously, at the stadium, and not just where you work out and where you get it's where you play. It's where you get medical. All your stuff is there, right? Your gym's there. Your practice facilities are there. Everything that you're used to, everything that you're comfortable with, is at your disposal, and you also kind of know. You also know the facilities well enough against the other team. And we know the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are the most paranoid team in the CFL, up there in a tie for first place with all other 8 clubs. But it's just there's so many wrinkles that gets thrown into the fact that that the Ticats are playing in front of their home field. So all that kind of juggernauts or undisputed best team in the CFL in 2021, all that kind of narrative, all that kind of talk. It might be true, but this team isn't going to buy it. They haven't bought it all week, and just given all those things heading into this week, they're going to feel. I think they're going to act a lot like they did in 2019. Business approach. We haven't won anything, we haven't proven anything kind of mentality.
What did you make of the East Final? I mean, Toronto had so many opportunities early on. They kept on settling for field goals, and it seemed like they were just giving the Ticats the opportunity to wake up. But I'll tell you what, pretty interesting storylines for that team, considering that Masoli got yanked and it was Dane Evans that came in and was sort of the hero for Hamilton in a big turnaround after getting dominated for the better part of the first 30.
I wasn't surprised that Hamilton went to Dane Evans. I was surprised how early they went to him. Masoli had a costly turnover, a fumble, but to pull him kind of in the early stages of the second quarter, I felt like that was a pretty short leash, but wow, did it work? I mean, Dane Evans has been a competitor. They obviously know what he's capable of doing. He was the team's starter pretty much all of 2019 after Masoli got injured, and obviously took them to not only first place in the CFL, but to the Grey Cup and an eventual loss to Winnipeg. I don't know about Toronto. Toronto to me is a team that, they've been very good at home. There's been a lot of question marks around some of their behavior, particularly around penalties. They just seem like a bit of a selfish team. They don't seem like a team that's, and I'm careful to say selfish in the sense that, they're definitely a quality team. They're loaded with talent, but you see some of those, undisciplined penalties that extend drives. And that wasn't just Sunday. That was all season long. They just had the talent to kind of, wade through some of those, win close games. It was interesting too. They had beat Hamilton, 3 out of 4 times this season. It's tough to beat a team 4 times in a year. Hamilton also had a massive crowd come support them at BMO Field. They felt like they were at a home game, but it just seemed like a tale of two teams. It looked like Toronto was in the driver's seat early on, and Hamilton kind of took over. It looked a little bit more balanced kind of later in the second half before Hamilton ended up breaking away. My big takeaway in that game too is who kicks 11-yard field goals? It was like a 10-yard field goal and 11-yard field goal with under 15 yards for 2 field goals. Like, when you're that deep into a team's end, is it not better, especially when you have the defense Toronto has, is it not better to go for those touchdowns on either of them? Because what you get is 6 points in 2 field goals. If you get 1 out of 2 opportunities there, you get 7 points. If you get both, you're getting 14. And so it just felt like some really, really strong drives, get up to the doorstep, very much like the Bombers, but 2 different stories. The Bombers turned over the ball, but not just settling for 3 points. I felt like that just allowed Hamilton to stick around in the game a lot longer. And then obviously the quarterback change and the momentum from that. And, they're a talented team. I mean, and they have a very, very dangerous front 4 on defense. Hamilton does. And so that all seemed to kind of align with itself as the game went on, and Toronto just couldn't seem to find. But I mean, Toronto's such a circus. Look at what happened post game. You know what I mean? Like, it's just been a bit of a running kind of show all season.
Well, I mean, think about the way the weekend started.
Right.
I mean,
there you go.
The Raptor game, and certainly got a lot more buzz for the East Final. I don't think that was intended to have that same sort of effect, but it certainly did. So what do you make of the matchup? I mean, going in, I know we'll have more time to talk about that as we get into the week, but the Bombers, with everything that they've accomplished so far this season, coming off a bit of a white knuckle ride in crazy conditions, I mean, getting the job done. And Hamilton, I think, a team that we have to think is kind of maybe getting to their best football of the year at the most important time, because they were a real disappointment for the better part of the regular season, Jeff, compared to what everyone expected from them going into game number 1 here at IG Field, the only matchup between the two teams this season.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're Bombers, you got to be confident. The Bombers they've proven all season long just how good they are. They certainly have the best defense in the Canadian Football League. They have the highest scoring offense. There's plenty to like about Winnipeg. I think Hamilton is probably the second best team. They were heavy favorites out of the East to begin the season after what they achieved in 2019. They brought a fair amount of people back. They look built to be another juggernaut this season. And then I think they started 0-3, found their rhythm somewhere in the middle of the season. I mean, we were talking about Masoli and Dane Evans, 2 very good quarterbacks in their own right. No one was really nailed down all season long. I mean, Masoli got injured, and then Dane Evans came in and he played some pretty good football, and then he got replaced by Masoli when he got back, and then Masoli was having okay games but wasn't winning, and there was talks about putting Dane Evans back in. So, to me, I think clearly the more consistent team this season has been Winnipeg, but it is also a lot to, you got to catch fire at the end of the season. Now, can you make that argument with Hamilton? Possibly, but Hamilton couldn't win a first place game against Toronto when it mattered at the end of the regular season. So it wasn't like they were playing their best football. Obviously beat Montreal, and then they've gutted their way to earning that Grey Cup berth. So they're doing what the Winnipeg Blue Bombers did last season, minus the fact that they they went and rode twice. I mean, Toronto wasn't far. They did have, some local representation, but there is a buzz and an energy that comes from succeeding in that. Now, how much wear and tear has there been from playing 2 games in the last 2 weeks? I don't know. We'll maybe figure that out. But, all in all, it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be a tight game, but I don't think the Bombers being 4.5-point favorites is wrong. I think this is a team that, has risen to the occasion. As we talked about, I think yesterday was a bit of a reality check, a reminder of the need to play clean football and that you can't just, talent your way out of things. And so I think all those things considered, the Bombers come into the game feeling confident. They come in, healthy, which is super important. Obviously, Harris adds another wrinkle to that. Andrew wasn't available in that week 1 win. But yeah, I think just, all the other things we talked about just with Hamilton's roster and their defense and their offense has some weapons too. And then the fact that they're at home, I think truly makes it one of those rare, if you will, pick'em games, come championship day on Sunday.
A couple people in chat wondering what it's going to be like in Hamilton. Just pulling up Environment Canada right now. It looks like it's going to be pretty nice. 4 degrees, mix of sun and cloud. It certainly would be more pleasant to be in the stands at Tim Hortons than it was for the 31K plus that turned up for 3 hours yesterday in the cold. Jeff, I know you're heading out there. What are the big storylines? I mean, right now for you, what are the big storylines that you're thinking of focusing in on this week? And where does Zach Collaros returning to Hamilton, playing in the championship game, rank among them?
Yeah, well, before I say that, I will say, when you said, what's it going to be like in Hamilton, small story, I used to tell people if I was at the airport or government stuff, be like, yeah, Jeff Hamilton, like the city. And then I visited Hamilton, the city. And now I say Jeff Hamilton, like the play. So the weather might be okay, but, I'm all about Winnipeg. So, yeah, Hamilton's Hamilton. But, storylines, yeah, juicy ones. I mean, there's always juicy storylines. There's, first and foremost, there's the rematch. Right. I mean, there's the rematch here of 2019. So, Hamilton, gets their chance for revenge. The Bombers, of course, are on the brink of a potential dynasty. I mean, if you think about it, I use that. I mean, that's a pretty intense word. But if you go back to back, the Bombers are very, very likely to have a similar team in 2022. That's just the facts. They've continued to gain a reputation of being a great organization, a great place to play. Mike O'Shea is respected by pretty much everyone in the league. So there's that kind of conversation. There's obviously the, Zach Collaros going back to where it began in Hamilton and or where he really established himself in Hamilton. And, he's got family there. So it's like a home game for him. His wife's is from the area. So there's lots of things, man. I mean, there's the awards, right? I mean, is Mike O'Shea going to finally win his Coach of the Year award? Is Zach Collaros going to win, league MVP? Is Adam Big Hill going to win most outstanding defensive player? Is Stanley Bryant going to win his third, Canadian, most outstanding offensive lineman in 4 years? I mean, that's just part of it. There's the individual team parts and the juicy storylines that go into that, but then there's the league-wide stuff, right? I mean, this is the week that Randy Ambrosie, and he hasn't exactly been transparent or available much this season. He's going to now have to talk about all the things that happened over the year, right? I mean, whether it's the future of the CFL, it was great that the CFL came back this season. And from what we're hearing from some organizations, they're, including Winnipeg, they're expecting a profitable season, which is great. But where are they financially, right? Where are they in the most important markets? Where are they in BC? Where are they specifically in Toronto? I mean, it's, heading into this season, it was all about, the potential of merging with the XFL. Where have those conversations, moved to? Are they still non-existent? Which I think they are, but more so Toronto, right? There's been buzz for weeks about Toronto potentially joining the XFL, wanting to be part of international league, not wanting to, float the Argonauts anymore. We'll figure that kind of stuff out. And there's just a lot of fun stuff too. I mean, this is the kind of year where, this is the time of season in this week where, everyone's working really hard to uncover, juicy little stories and connections and all this stuff. So it's always a great week to really dive into the content. There's going to be reporters there from all over the country, all kind of competing with each other. It's just a great week of a lot of fun, a lot of work, and certainly a lot of stories. So, that's just kind of the early goings, but every day is going to have a lot of stuff. I'm going to have a ton of columns. Taylor Allen is going to join me. So we're going to have a couple reporters there from the Winnipeg Free Press. And we're just going to try to give you the best coverage and cover it from all angles in what should be a really, really exciting week.
Hey, speaking of the Canadian Football League, coming out of last weekend, I think everyone that knows how much of a religion the Saskatchewan Roughriders are in Regina and in that province, were stunned to see how poor that crowd was. How big of a day was it for the Canadian Football League, considering the struggles that they had yesterday, to have a strong crowd in Toronto, a great game between the Argos and Ticats, the Ticats win, going home to play as the home team in the Grey Cup, and then the scene that was here in Winnipeg with over 30,000 people in some subarctic conditions and turning out and, as I said, turning up for the entire 3 hours. I mean, I was obviously there. I haven't rewatched the game or anything like that, but to be a part of it, you knew it was something special. I'm sure it showed up on TV, and I got to think that was great for the Canadian Football League, considering some of the things that they've dealt with, especially when it comes to the stands this year for the league.
That was, I think Mike O'Shea put it perfectly when he walked up to, take his seat post-game availability, and without being asked this question yet, he just kind of spoke into the mic. That was pretty good for the CFL, eh? So, I thought it was a terrific pair of games. It was not only great football, dramatic football, aggressive, violent football at times, plot changing. It was just, it had everything. But to have that be the two games leading into the Grey Cup after a season that, and I haven't written too much about it. I haven't really bogged down on it. But the reality is the play had kind of decreased this season. There's no doubt about it. The scoring had been down. There was less explosive kind of plays that we're used to, less kind of crazy games. I'm not saying there wasn't crazy games. There always is in this crazy football league. But, just the level of play kind of took a bit of a hit. So for those to have those two games on Sunday, be as close as they were, be as interesting as they were, certainly bodes well for the league and certainly bodes well for garnering attention to, I imagine there's been some times where I go, what if this was someone's first CFL game that they ever watched? And, and sometimes it's horrible example, right? You hope they did see that. Well, particularly in the later game on Wednesday in the West final, you ask the question, if somebody had turned it, whether they be in Canada or in the US or somewhere else, and just said, what is this game about? To watch that game and the way it went down, it was the perfect sales pitch for the 3-down game, and you can only hope for just as an exciting Grey Cup game to wrap up what's been a unique, challenging, tough, but overall successful season for the Canadian Football League.
Hammer, when are you heading to the Hammer?
11:45. I leave tomorrow. I'm going to try to get there. There's a handful of us media that are taking the same flight. We're trying to get there. We'll get there about 3-ish, and then we gotta make some moves to get to Hamilton because we're flying into Toronto, and then we got to meet the teams at the airport hangar. It's their big kind of like the official kickoff to the Grey Cup. Maybe they get off their charters, do some interviews, take some pictures, yada yada yada, and let's get going.
Well, oh man, I can't wait. I think we're still buzzing from everything that happened yesterday, but it is going to be a fun week out in Hamilton. I think you're right. I think we got the two best teams in the league. I think we've got an amazing set of storylines with the rematch from 2019 with the Ticats playing at home. But it's pretty clear from listening to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers that they are not satisfied with what happened yesterday. And I think all the people in the chat are hoping that they will take what happened yesterday and make them better for what will be the most important and probably their biggest challenge of this entire season.
You can take that to the bank. That's absolutely going to be the mentality of this team. They're not going to come into this week thinking that they're favorites, thinking that they're top dogs. They're going to be humble. They're going to let their play do the talking for it. And we'll see. We'll see how Hamilton handles it.
Hey, Remo, if you can, get that final Bob Irving call ready. We'll kind of finish up our Bomber chat with that. But, Jeff, before we go, I just did want to ask you about Bob. What a way for his incredible, illustrious Hall of Fame career to end yesterday, going into the Ring of Honor at the beginning of the game, calling one of the most memorable games that we've had. And I mean, the fact of the matter is, Bob Irving had done the games for 49 years, and he had never called a West final at IG Field, and that was the way that it all finished, with his call of the Bombers being victorious the last time he did a game on CJOB.
Bob Irving is a special human being. Bob Irving is a legend in the truest sense of the word. He's the consummate pro. He's a guy who gives his heart and soul to the job, to the team, to his responsibilities, to his role as the voice of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And, I obviously grew up listening to him. I mean, I remember listening to him when I was fighting with my twin brother in the back seat of the car, and my dad would be yelling at us to shut up so that Bob could finish talking, or just, bring the players on post game, because we used to go to a lot of games as kids. And, to be able to get into this industry and get a chance to know Bob personally, to be able to travel with him, to road games, share vehicles with him, just get to know him on a personal level. I'm so fortunate to have had to, have got to know him. Someone who, I'm not going to say he was like a pseudo grandfather to me, but, for someone who doesn't have didn't have a chance to have a close relationship with their grandfathers, for him, he was just a guy who I always just respected so much, and, just felt a connection to that. He's just a football guy, but he's just a guy, and he's a genuine guy, and he's just, and I think that is the most incredible part about his career is, in an industry where everyone wants to be somebody else, or try to emulate someone else, or try to be somebody else, and tries to, whatever, right? The whole idea of finding your voice. Well, Bob Irving found it very early and continued on, and he's got a unique style that is not only just so good in being tough but fair. It's easy to listen to. It's poetry in motion, but it just lasted. You know what I mean? It lasted so long, and just to have people want it to go for even longer and to be that good for that long is such a testament to the work he's put in, to the skill and ability and talent that he has, but more importantly to the person he is. And wow, is his retirement so well deserved. I wish him the best in his retirement, but this isn't the last we're going to see of Bob. Bob's going to be around the Bombers, but in this way, he's going to be able to do his own thing. This is a ride off into the sunset, a well-deserved one, but there's a quick U-turn there somewhere, and this isn't the last you'll see of Bob or hear from Bob.
I had to laugh late in the game. I was thinking about Bob and what it must be saying, as it looked like the Bombers were just about ready to finish off the Riders and go to the Grey Cup, and knowing that it was going to be his final call. And I looked down into the end zone, and all those maniacs in 140 and 141, and a couple dudes were like had taken their shirts off. And I mean, it was just mayhem. And I thought, next year, Bob's got to get down and spend a quarter or two down in 141 or 140 with the hardcores of the Bomber Nation, because that's the one thing you never get to do. Well, then lucky. Is that something?
Lucky section, right? Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. That was a bizarre scene, but I think one that everyone in Winnipeg loved. I don't know how much the Lions crew was probably fired up about it, but
that section's awesome, man. That's just like, I know a couple guys that are in that section too, and they're great dudes.
There's nothing like it in this league.
Man, just tons of credit to them, and just absolutely, like they're recognized. They're recognized by everyone. They're recognized by fans, by the players, by media. We all know where they're at. And so kudos to them, and great work on what they've, their continued support. It's incredible.
There's the picture. Remis has it up right now. Lucky Whitehead showing up at the game and just getting into it with some of the wildest fans in the Canadian Football League there in the end zone of IG Field yesterday. Hammer, great stuff today. You travel safely. We'll definitely catch up later on this week, and it should be a wild one. We're looking forward to all of your content along with the rest of the team in the Winnipeg Free Press with boots on the ground tomorrow in Hamilton.
Yeah, right on, Huss. Thanks a lot for having me on. Always appreciate being on. Shout out to the comment section too. You guys are like the fans in the stands. Without them, we'd be nothing. So
this is the Section 141 online version of Section 141 and 140 here in the Winnipeg Sports Talk chat every day. And great to see everyone out having such a good time. Hammer, thanks for doing this, pal.
You got it. Thanks a lot, guys.
All right, we are going to talk Jets, but as I mentioned, we heard from Mike O'Shea and we heard from Andrew Harris. The other thing that I did want to play, and the Bombers tweeted this out yesterday, was how it sounded on 680 CJOB when the Bombers booked their ticket to Hamilton and the legendary Bob Irving finished up his final call on 680 CJOB of Winnipeg Blue Bomber football.
10 seconds left. Victory formation for the Blue Bombers. The clock is now empty, 0. Zach Collaros, last snap of the game. He holds on to it. He goes down on a knee. The game is over. The Blue Bombers have won the West Division Final. They're going to the Grey Cup for a rematch with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. And this was some spectacular, sensational, dramatic, knockdown, drag-em-out football game, Doug Brown.
There it is. Knuckles finishing it off. 49 years, I believe, as the voice of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and the CFL in this town. And I'll say this, there is no greater ambassador for the CFL. There's no better defender of the CFL than Bob Irving. And man, what a special, special day in a special environment, in an incredible atmosphere, following a special football team that's one win away from defending the cup and doing what they set out to do. Man, this was fun. I can't wait to talk about the Bombers all week long, getting ready for Hamilton Sunday afternoon, the Grey Cup. Bombers invading Steeltown and trying to spoil the party for the hosts who get their crack at the Bombers after what they did to them in Calgary in 2019. All right, we've got still a ton to get to. I mean, we've really focused in on that incredible day yesterday at IGF, but there was a lot going on at Canada Life Centre as well. We'll get to that in just a minute. But a big thanks to Princess Auto. Princess Auto, big sponsor of the Bombers. I'll be looking forward to who the teammates of the game were, which of course Princess puts out each and every game. I have a feeling Andrew Harris is going to be one of those teammates, maybe Zach Collaros as well, and the way he bounced back. Hell, I would give the teammates to the game for Princess Auto to Harris and the offensive line, as we talked about it with Jeff Hamilton a little earlier. Of course, Princess Auto is where you'll find the best deals and the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. You can visit them online, 2 locations here in Winnipeg, and of course their national headquarters here in Winnipeg, started right here in the Peg. Or you can start shopping 24/7, 365 online at princessauto.com. I know the Boston pizzas were packed. I spent a little debriefer with some of the gang. I think Christopher Metz here in the chat. I had one with him after the game, just sort of buzzing about what happened at the Bomber game, the hockey game, and then got a chance to see my Chiefs finish off the Broncos. Quite a day personally for myself and the teams I support. But again, Boston Pizza, great spot before and after every game, but especially downtown. Jets hosting the Carolina Hurricanes tomorrow. Should be a great one. We'll get to the Jets in just a minute. Of course, the big game is always on the big screen at your local Boston Pizza. No better place to get together with the gang, enjoy some ice-cold schooners, some great Boston pizza, and of course, Boston's wings as well. Or you can also get it delivered at home by calling your local restaurant or ordering online at bostonpizza.com. And victory blizzards for everyone. Man, we were so cold yesterday. Why not get a blizzard? Pop by our friends over at Nick and Nicky DQ for one of those, not to mention that incredible new steakhouse burger and everything else they've got going on at DQ. 4 locations, the DQ in Niverville, DQ Northgate, both with drive-thrus, the DQ at Polo Park, and now open year-round, the DQ on St. Anne's, serving St. Vital, and available on Skip the Dishes and Uber Eats. And if you do have an event, maybe a holiday party where you want to get a cool ice cream cake, maybe something for the Grey Cup, you know what to do. Hit them up on Instagram at DQ Manitoba. They'll get it ready for you, and you can pick it up at any of the locations. Maybe start thinking about a Grey Cup cake for your party or whatever you're doing next Sunday. Great stuff from our longtime supporters, Nick and Nikki and the Nick and Nikki DQ group. All right, let's get Remis back in here. Remo, we've spent a lot of time talking about the Bombers. I could literally keep doing it for hours, But it wasn't just the Bombers that were making Winnipeg fans happy on the weekend and yesterday. It was the Winnipeg Jets. And what did I say on Friday? There was all the angst, of which I had plenty throughout last week, talking about where the team was coming off that disappointing Monday night loss to the Arizona Coyotes. I said on Friday, well, let's get into the weekend. Let's get in good spirits. And who knows? Hopefully we're getting here on Monday talking about a Bomber win and 2 Winnipeg Jet wins, and everything will be good again in Winnipeg. And that is exactly where we are at. 8 goals on Friday night against the New Jersey Devils. And then another half does last night against the Toronto Maple Leafs in a wild game that, of course, started off with celebrating the incredible career of Jets captain Blake Wheeler, who played in game number 1,000.
Yeah, where do we start? Do we start Friday? Friday, because it seems like Mark Scheifele may have listened to the show I saw last week where we talked about how poor his play has been all season. And you even suggested maybe the team look at trading him. Well, Mark Scheifele answered all the critics Friday with a hat trick.
Maurice put me up to it. Maurice put me up to it. Just basically stirring it up and igniting the Jets center to a hat trick performance. I can't take all the credit, everyone, jokingly. Reynolds did bring it up on KNR on Friday night. I had to laugh. But hey, we talked a lot about where this team was going forward, how things are working out. And I do think that with the contract situation of where he is, the time left, not only is he a massive, massive asset, but I think that, the thought of, maybe Mark Scheifele not being a Jet for life years ago would have been crazy, but there's going to be tough decisions going forward. And it was all within the background of, a real struggle offensively and, some issues with the club, finding the right mix of players up front. All that being said, Scheifele had a monster weekend, and in particular, the game against New Jersey, Reem. He showed some of the moves and the skill that, he hadn't been able to show at times so far this year. No mistake about it, who the guy that was making things happen on Friday night for a team that desperately needed a win and desperately needed a big offensive performance to put a few red lights on behind an opposition goalie.
Yeah, we'll do a quick recap here of Friday before we get into Saturday. But Friday, Mark Scheifele's 3 goals. Those are the 3 nicest hat trick goals you'll see. He had the deke on the first one, he had the one-timer on the third one, and the second one was the toe drag. They're all beauties. Wheeler with 3 assists. It was 3-0, and then New Jersey went up 4-3. And I don't know, this isn't.
Dude, I've got a story
ideal
about this. So Andrew Collier and I from the Gold Eyes went over to Little Brown Jug before, and it was starting at about 6. We got there at about 6:15, had a couple beers, saw Kevin and the gang, and sort of realized holy smokes, we're having fun, but this game's already started. So we jumped in an Uber, got there, walked into the building, and we were obviously following what was happening, and the Jets were up 3-0. And literally as we got into the building, Jersey scored again. And then the 2 goals early in the second period, and all of a sudden it's 4-3 New Jersey. And we're like, should we just go back to Little Brown Jug? I'm a superstitious guy. Things have not gone well since we walked into the building. Luckily, of course, the Jets then did get it together. And joking aside, the second goal that Scheifele scored at the end of the second period when the Jets were up 5-4, to me was the goal of the game. In that, he looked at the clock, realized that there wasn't a lot of time to go get set up, took it to the net, made that play, and a 2-goal lead was very different than 1 goal, considering the way they were up 3, and then all of a sudden we're down 1 early in the second period.
Well, it's so funny. On Friday, I had tweeted out, by the end of the game, they had scored 8 goals. In the previous 6 games combined, they had also scored 8 goals. So it was that scoring explosion that we were kind of waiting for. But Friday was a great start to the weekend Friday. But the main event for the Jets was the Sunday nighter with the Blake Wheeler 1,000 game celebration. The Jets do this so well. We saw it with the Paul Stanley, but we didn't have fans in the stands. You saw the stuff on social media in the morning. They're changing the picture to Blake Wheeler's face. What else they have? Everyone in warm-up wearing 26 jersey, and Wheeler's got the 1,000 jersey. I saw the Arizona Coyotes tweet out, Louis Erickson's playing his 1,000th game for them tonight. I can guarantee you that their ceremony won't be as good as the Jets with the silver stick. You like that one?
Well, I do love that. And you know what? Everything about it was great. The atmosphere in the building was awesome. I think people were in a real positive state. The win on Friday, I think, was a big part of that. And then, of course, everything that happened with the Bombers earlier in the day. And you got there and you realized this was a special game. I mean, it's always cool when the Leafs come to town. There's a lot of Leaf fans there. I will say this, the Rider fans were amazing at the game. I mean, great spirits, having a lot of fun. Not so much usually when the Leaf Nation gets into Canada Life Centre, and that was the case last night. But as far as getting things going at the start, Wheeler's family was absolutely adorable. His lovely wife and his kids were just, eating up every second of it. They got their little silver sticks as well. Dad got the one. I tweeted out the picture from where I was sitting. But, interesting, a full team picture with Wheeler at center ice before the Leafs came out commemorating it. And in addition to his family being out there and everyone being in a good mood, Remo, we had a big Buff sighting on the Jumbotron. Dustin Byfuglien with a message for Blake Wheeler and Brian Little as well. So great to see both of those guys that are, a huge part of Jets history, teammates for Blake for a long time, in addition to a number of other people, former Jets, former NHL players, opponents of Blake Wheeler. But the biggest cheers for sure through all of that was the return of Big Buff to the Jumbotron downtown. And of course, Brian Little, who we all miss.
Yeah, I didn't even know Buff had a cell phone. How did he record that video? And I think part of it had to be beeped out. I couldn't even understand. But I'm watching the video. Yeah, you had a current teammate, Paul Stastny, saw Kessel in there, Tyler Myers, Ben Sherratt, Jacob Trouba, as you said, Buff, Brian Little. we hadn't seen him in so long as well. And, people keep asking the updates on him. We keep hearing medically not cleared to play, but it was great to see. And it was, again, the great video tribute. Well done. They did the team picture at center ice. And I feel like, we saw, a Monday against Arizona. That's a tough game to get up for emotionally. But last night, Sunday night after the Bombers punched a ticket to the Grey Cup, your captain's being on for 1,000 games against the Maple Leafs, and the whole hockey, my whole timeline is talking about Jets Leafs. This is a big Canadian Canadian battle. So unfortunately, they only play like twice this year, sadly for everyone. But it had playoff-like atmosphere. You saw it with the Edmonton game, and we saw it again last night. And the Jets find a way, because I had Leaf fans messaging me like, "This Jets team looks great." I'm like, yeah, you didn't watch the previous 8 games.
Everyone.
Where they, or how the previous what was it? The previous 6 games where they scored 8 goals, but it seems like they're back, and hopefully they can stay this. But the intensity was there. You saw the rivalry. It was just an amazing game, and thankfully the Jets came out on top to cap off a historic Winnipeg Sports Day.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And we'll start it off with the captain, who. A big weekend for Blake Wheeler. I think he had 3 assists on Friday and another couple yesterday, and, made a beautiful pass to Pierre-Luc Dubois to open the scoring in the first, 4:05 in to the game yesterday on the power play, something that we'd spent quite a bit of time talking about. Power play ended up clicking 3 times yesterday for the Winnipeg Jets. That is a great sign. And I got to tell you, man, Dubois was a beast yesterday. He came to play, obviously had the goal in the first period, but what everyone was talking about later on was how this game sort of disintegrated. And I think a lot of it came from a little back and forth with one Austin Matthews and Pierre-Luc Dubois, where they got coincidental penalties. Maybe Dubois got away with a little, maybe he could have had an extra one. But that seemed to incite the Leafs. And in the third period, despite the fact that, they got those 2 goals late in the second to turn a 5-1 game into a 5-3 game, they didn't really seem too interested in winning the game. It was code time for Sheldon Keefe and the Leafs.
Well, Leafs were pretty hot with the Pionk, but I gotta be honest, I loved the Dubois Matthews. We talked about Pionk living rent free here in McDavid's Head, and then you got Dubois, Matthews going back to the playoffs where Columbus upset Toronto.
Remember me, Austin?
Yeah, I mean, I saw a lot of Leafs fans upset. Like, why would Matthews get a penalty? I don't know if he was holding on to Dubois' stick, and Dubois was just he was just trying to get away from Matthews. He was just trying to get away. Matthews wouldn't let him. It's pretty clear that's what happened. But that was, but yeah, we do have a couple hearings actually. Pionk with the phone hearing, and then Spezza comes in with the flying, knee.
In-person hearing for Jason Spezza. And I mean, that was an incredibly dangerous play. I mean, it was, Pionk was completely vulnerable. And I mean, that was basically a WWE move. What was even more concerning about it, and I think this is part of the reason why that this is an in-person hearing. I mean, Spezza's not, I don't really consider Jason Spezza a dirty player. I mean, if the entire team to do that, it was sort of bizarre that it was Spezza. But man, Remis, that was very, very close to, the play that almost beheaded John Tavares in the playoffs last year and cost him the majority of the postseason. So, I mean, it was a very dangerous play. NHL player safety, in-person hearing, which gives them the option to suspend for more than 5 games. Wayne Simmonds is getting fined, but we will have to wait to find out what the status of Neil Pionk is for tomorrow, because I guess there's a potential that he does have a suspension. It seems like these issues are always looked at a lot more closely when the Toronto Maple Leafs are involved. I don't know why that is.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Well, you talk about the Pionk hit on Rasmus Sandin, and when I hear Rasmus Sandin, I get flashbacks to last year where Sandin threw, they call it a reverse hit. I thought it was just a straight interference on Blake Wheeler, where he kind of jumped back and hit Blake Wheeler in the head, who was down. And I saw everyone on Twitter going, "Oh, what a hit!" And I was like, I don't know. I thought that was kind of BS. And so I wonder if the Jets, on the night that was Wheeler's 1,000th game, that I don't know if they had a target on Rasmus Sandin, or maybe they were just paying extra attention. Pionk, has Pionk ever layout hits like that? It seems to be very uncharacteristic. He did get him on the knee. Maybe he was lining him up and Sandin cut to the middle, and Pionk kind of stuck his. I didn't think it looked that bad, but everyone I'm seeing on Twitter thinks it's like the worst hit ever. So we'll wait and see. I thought the Spezza hit was clearly much worse. I mean, a guy's on the ground and you're skating, and for a guy who's like, has Spezza ever thrown a hit? I mean, in his career, like, he's not that type of player, but he threw a flying knee on a fallen Neil Pionk. I think that's that's the in person. I think he'll get more than Pionk, but this is like results based. So if Sandin's out for the year, and Pionk doesn't miss any games for a concussion, well, then I think Pionk's going to get a longer suspension. That seems like that's how the NHL does it, and I don't agree with that being the way, but that seems what they do. So and then Wayne Simmonds, who wasn't even trying to play hockey, just trying to cross-check, got a heavy fine. I don't know if you saw.
Yeah, $2,250.
Heavy fine. What is that, like $5 for a regular person?
For an NHL player, yeah, that sounds about right. Hey, they got unhinged. And you know what? That penalty they took, next thing you know, Mark Scheifele scores. It's 6-3, essentially game over. And then, as Austin Matthews described, it turned into a bit of a gong show. Kyle Clifford running around trying to fight someone. He ended up getting a fight from Brandon Dillon. And that was at the point where things really got bad for the Leaf fans. I will tell this story quickly. I'm in 206 row 1. And I'm giving it to Clifford, kind of saying congratulations, something to the extent of, this could be the most significant thing you do all season long, Kyle. So enjoy the spotlight and the time in the penalty box. And some Leaf fan, it was a father-son jabroni tag team in front of me. The guy turns around and says something to me. I wasn't really listening. I'm like, are you talking to me? Why? And then he didn't really say much. And then the dad gets in and says something. And I'm like, why are you talking to me? And then we just kind of go on about our business. And then I look and he actually does the hey, you, like, outside, let's go outside. And I, of course, laugh in his face. And then that was followed by the police saying, you know what, we've had enough of you two idiots, get out. And they got escorted out of the building. So I'm sure there was quite a bit of that last night. As I said, it wasn't quite as fun as the good-natured rivalry between the Bombers and the Riders. We saw at the football game, but everything gets amped up, and I know for a lot of those Leaf fans, it's their one time to see the team all year. So when they get pumped by the home team like happened last night, they're not in a very good mood, Michael.
I can't believe people are like still trying to fight. I mean, it's 2021.
I know.
Like you're fighting because you thought hockey player on his favorite team was acting like an idiot.
And this dude is probably pushing 60, by the way. I didn't mention that as well. Like the kid who was like, whatever, kind of started it, but didn't really want anything to do with it. I think was actually sort of embarrassed. Was in like his early 20s. But yeah, Dad was easily 60 years old and was absolutely agitated. And I guess I hadn't been paying attention at any point during the game. But the captain who I was sitting with said, "Oh, believe me, these guys have been on the verge the entire game of getting punted. This was just the final straw." So we waved them all. We thanked them for their support of the Jets, and told them to have a great night. And as I said, the Winnipeg's finest escorted them out of the building. Just another kind of weird thing that happened last night in what was an incredibly memorable day for Winnipeg sports fans. But getting back to all the nonsense in the third period, Reem, I mean, one of the other moments that I will remember about the game was Logan Stanley going full-fledged WWE with the crowd as he was heading back to the dressing room, holding up the helmet like it was like a title belt, telling the fans, "Let's effing go." And I'll tell you what, his teammates were loving it as well. I mean, very, very fun atmosphere then in the third period as it looked like the Jets were about to finish the job against the Leafs.
Here, I tweeted out the picture. Here it is. I mean, this was the image of the game. This is the best. And I see a lot of triggered Leaf fans out there. I know I'm referencing them a lot, but they're hard to avoid. They're everywhere, triggered Leaf fans. But I thought this was awesome. Working the crowd. The game's 6-3, and he did earn the helmet. We'll show the helmet presentation after. But, I mean, was absolutely incredible image. It was just a fantastic game. We haven't even got to the goals. I mean, it seemed, and the Leafs' poor defensive play, especially in the second period, it seemed like every second there was an odd man rush, like 2-on-1s. Even Blake Wheeler had a breakaway, still hasn't scored his first goal. He chipped in a couple assists. But I mean, Ehlers had a nice snipe on a feed from Kopp. Evgeny Svechnikov getting in on the action with maybe the nicest snipe of the night. I couldn't believe how well he placed that one. It was just a fantastic game. Did that not go off
the goalie? The Svech goal?
The Svech one?
Yeah, I thought it sort of like hit the goalie's shoulder and then like basically went right off the bar. It sounded really great. Bottom line was awesome shot. Nice to see him get rewarded because he's been playing quite well. And you know, the Jets got contributions, and this is a bigger conversation about both games on the weekend. They got contributions from all of their lines. I mean, hell, the first three goals on Friday night was Connor Scheifele-Wheeler, the Dubois-Ehlers line, and then Vesalainen getting one from the slot. And I'll tell you what, I know we're kind of focusing more on the Toronto game on the weekend, but Vesalainen's play on the weekend, especially on Friday, I thought was a big story going forward. I mean, he had as many shots in the game Friday, I think he'd done in his last 8 or 9 games. And I'll tell you what, if he can play like that on that third line, he's going to earn some more ice time and hopefully continue to grow as a player that can be counted on as a regular for this team.
Yeah, we can get into the Riley Nash wave and what it possibly means. I think it's kind of related. I did want to play the post game, post game party here from the Jets after. There's so much to like about this. I love that the Jets put this out, and here, let me fire it up because I thought this was after the game. The Jets heading into the dressing room. 1 sec.
The old helmet presentation.
Hey boys, is there anything better than beating the Leafs? Hey? Anything better? This goes to this guy.
And by the way, whoever in the Jets social media department got a chance to go and put in the line at the end, let's go have fun and be responsible. 5-star social media work by the Jets crew. And those scenes are not thing that we've had a chance to see very often over the course of the past 10 years. I know fans absolutely eat it up. And after a night like that, what a great thing to share with fans, that watch the Jets beat the Leafs and, sort of get some good vibes going on around the team as well. Now, despite that game, as ugly as it was last Monday, with wins in 3 of their last 4, getting ready for a big one tomorrow with Rod the Bod and the Carolina Hurricanes coming to town.
Here, this is also the best. I mean, we're here loving Stanley, like going like this to everyone, but like, look at the guys in the dressing room, like Blake Wheeler's face here. It's been next to Stasny, Connor Ehlers. These guys are having fun, and Shifley, does anything feel better than beating the Leafs? I think a lot of Jets fans would agree, especially with I heard it was like half Leaf fans there. Like, it's insane to me every single time how many are there. But what a game, what a weekend for the team. Great celebration of the 1,000th game and a great win. I mean, there's a lot to like, and it's funny. Our tune has totally changed from last week after Monday's loss to Arizona. I mean, The Jets lost. It's funny, they lost to Arizona. Not only lose to Arizona, they got shut out by Arizona, and they also lost to Vancouver, who just fired everyone in the organization yesterday. And we can touch on the firings, but I mean, they come out, and when it's a big game like against Edmonton or against Toronto, I think a different team showed up, and I think that's the Jets team that we expect to see when it comes to the playoffs.
Ryan Friesen, Hustler got me and my son tossed. That was you, Ryan? Oh, geez, You should have introduced yourself. I would have had a little bit more time before you got turfed by Winnipeg police for being. Anyways, hilarious stuff. Great vibes around all of the teams, and the fans. And as I said, what happened yesterday at IG Field is one of those games that you will never ever forget if you were a part of it. But as someone that went and did the double dip and went to both games, just one of the most legendary sports days for our city. And the way that it went, with a win against the Riders to go to the Grey Cup, and then the Jets beating the Leafs in Blake Wheeler's 1,000th game, you can't write it up any better. And Remo, I tweeted out earlier on the weekend, first time I've actually ever done a tweet like that is a tweet thread. But I figured that was the time to do it because there was a bunch of things that I did want to say, and I'm just gonna pull it up right now because it, in a lot of ways, we've been talking about it for a long time, and it was all there. But this was on Saturday, one of the best Winnipeg sports fan days in my lifetime, coming up on Sunday. The Bombers Riders CFL West Final at IGF, 3 p.m. 49 years since the last West Final in Winnipeg, hosting their biggest rival in what might be borderline blizzard conditions with a trip to the Grey Cup on the line. 30,000 plus fans ready to go. Environment Canada dropping weather warnings and special weather statements, and a first place team trying to defend the cup. And then afterwards, the Jets host the Leafs, 7 p.m. downtown. Huge milestone for Captain Blake Wheeler playing game 1,000. And you put all that together, and obviously the significance of the football game, with so much on the line, kind of, I think, maybe makes it very different than some of the other doubleheaders that we had before. But the Leaf game is always one of the biggest games of the year. You know what comes with it. The fact that it was Blake Wheeler's 1,000th game as well, huge for the organization, huge for a guy that has been a mainstay for the last 10 years and has been is a huge part of Winnipeg Jets history as the captain. Got to tell you, smiling leaving the park yesterday, smiling leaving the arena last night. And you can just see how many people have been with us since we fired up today at 1 o'clock live on YouTube today, Remis, that those good vibes are continuing with Winnipeg sports fans throughout the day and hopefully all through this week, this Sunday afternoon in Hamilton.
Yeah, big Grey Cup week. I thought it was going to be a decent show. People were saying, this is going to be your biggest show ever. This has been the biggest one in a while. We're 500 people in here consistently. Thank you everyone for showing up. Thank you for chatting. Hit the thumbs up if you haven't. We got 250 likes, and hit the subscribe because we're here every day, weekdays at 1 Central. So this is pretty fun. Another big Jets game tomorrow against Carolina. We do have the Riley Nash news as well, and Bomber Grey Cup week.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, Troy Stevens, still waiting for you to respond to my DM. Did not see your DM, Troy. So I'm not sure whether you sent it to the wrong spot, but if you do have a DM, if anyone has a DM, you can always hit me up on Twitter at Hustlerama. Let's quickly get to some of the other news in the NHL, because you mentioned Riley Nash on waivers. We'll see what corresponding move that may mean going into tomorrow's game against the Carolina Hurricanes. But Remo, some house cleaning this weekend. First, Vancouver. Everybody's out. Jim Benning's out. Travis Green's out. The staff's out, including our pal Nolan Baumgartner. I hate to hear that. And smiling Bruce Boudreau going to Vancouver right now for this season and next. It seems like a very strange setup right now. I'm not sure if the Canucks entirely know where they're going from here. I guess what they did know that they needed to move on from this group that has contributed to a terrible start right now and absolute apathy and angst amongst Vancouver Canuck fans.
Yeah, I mean, this is years too late, the fire Jim Benning. I mean, the Vancouver fans have been begging for it over the last couple weeks, chanting fire Benning in their arena. I mean, it got embarrassing. And when the team got completely outclassed on Saturday to Pittsburgh, and a fan threw a jersey on the ice, and I mean, sometimes jersey throwing unwarranted, but if you're a Canucks fan and the team was just standing by, not doing anything, well, someone who was unfit to lead them, still employed. I see where they're coming from. The Canucks moves have just, I don't know, they keep trying to make these moves that to get them into the playoffs when they should be, kind of rebuilding. So,
well, that's why, we talked about it plenty in the offseason. I mean, the trade that they made with Arizona, long-term, might be a real problem. I mean, with the money that's owed to Oliver Ekman-Larsson and the term. But, I mean, they got rid of all of their dead weight, all these terrible contracts they sent to Arizona. They got Connor Garland, who I thought was a nice upgrade. Like, I really thought that Jim Benning was borrowing from the future to pay for today to try to keep his job and have this team be relevant. That might, as I said, the pain would be down the road. But the fact that they've been so bad this year with the moves that they've made meant that Jim was a dead man walking. And unfortunately for Travis Green and everybody else on the staff, they got caught up in it too.
Yeah, and I remember when Travis Green was in AHL coaching, and you heard over and over again how he's the next big thing. He's a great coach, and I guess, the team hadn't had success, kind of wore out his welcome, and they just had to move on. I agree. It is interesting that they would go and, usually you fire the GM and let the new GM make the decisions, but they went and got Bruce Boudreau, great history coaching in the regular season, Washington, Anaheim, Minnesota, this lack of playoff success. I don't know if it's his fault or not, but there's been a trend of that. But, maybe he'll come in, and I think they're trying to get Elias Pettersson right, and I guess he had fallen out of favor with the coaching staff. And, I mean, it was fascinating to me that they just stood by. I mean, it was pretty clear there was an issue with the management there, and they did nothing. And I see everyone in chat, mentioning the Pullman contract. I mean, when Pullman got that contract for, what was it, like 4 years?
10 mil, 4 year, 2.5 a season.
I mean, the long-term contracts that they gave to bottom forwards, the ones that they traded away to Arizona, like Roussel and who Jay Beagle got like a big one as well, and like Pullman, like you're just burning
Louis Eriksson
money over and over again. Yeah, the Louis Eriksson one. Yeah, so I'm curious what's happening. I'm following it. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll touch base in Vancouver at some point over these next few days. Obviously, our focus is going to be on the Jets with a big game against Carolina and then a couple games on the road back-to-back later on this week. I believe the Canucks on that schedule, so we'll probably set something up in and around that Canuck game to talk about it. But the Philadelphia Flyers, and I mean, sometimes I'm guilty of not paying as close attention to what's happening in the East and some of the other divisions. I mean, I knew the Flyers had sort of been up and down. But, man, you get embarrassed last night on home ice by the Tampa Bay Lightning losing 7-1, and that seemed to be the final straw. And Alain Vigneault out. Michelle Therrien also out. Interim head coach, a familiar name to those of us in the Central Division, Mike Yeo, taking over the Flyers. But Reem, the Flyers at 8-10-4 so far through 22 games. Basically moving on. New head coach, new direction, trying to salvage this season before it's another lost one for Philly.
Yeah, I see a lot of Minnesota Wild beat writers saying, oh, this looks familiar. Cliff Fletcher as GM with Mike Yeo as head coach. Yes, we saw both of them. And I'm not really sure what to make of Philly. I mean, they moved on. It was Dave Haxtell before they got Vigneault. I think they had some minor success, but they haven't really been that relevant, like a powerhouse team like they were, when they made the Stanley Cup final. I guess that's like 10 years ago now against Chicago.
Yeah.
I mean, they had Giroux and Voracek. They traded Voracek for Atkinson. They signed Kevin Hayes to this long-term deal. I don't know. The Flyers have just been kind of middling along, and maybe they can get over the hump here. But I mean, I guess it just hasn't. They just haven't been terrible, and they haven't been really good.
They've been terrible lately.
That's my take.
They've lost 8 in a row, and they're 1-7-2 in their last 10, and that can get a coach fired. And I think Vigneault still owed a bunch of money. I mean, he hasn't been there that long and signed a pretty big money deal when he came over. So I don't think Philly could have imagined that they'd be in this situation. But 2 more coaches walked the plank in the National Hockey League in Vancouver and in Philadelphia. Of course, if you're just popping in a little later on, there is some action at NHL player safety. Neil Pionk's got a phone hearing today, and Jason Spezza has been offered an in-person hearing for trying to decapitate Pionk last night in the game between the Winnipeg Jets and the Toronto Maple Leafs. So we'll let you know about that when we do hear it. Rima, we're not going to spend a lot of time on this, of course, because we're coming up to 3 o'clock. We will get to the cool bet lines because we've got a big Monday nighter. But I'll be honest. I mean, this is kind of the one weekend where I don't get a chance to watch almost any NFL because we were quite busy yesterday. Chiefs got a nice win last night against the Broncos. But my God, the Minnesota Vikings lost to the Lions on the final play of the game. I'm not sure if you've seen that final play of the game, but what the hell was going on defensively? The Vikings should be so much better than they are in the standings right now. But my God, if that is the loss that costs them from making the playoffs, it's going to be very, very tough for fans of the Vikings to get over.
It seems like every Vikings game goes down to the wire. It either goes to overtime or it's close. I know they're missing a lot of players. Yeah, I know they're missing a lot of players on defense. But that's
sure looked that way on that final play. Jared Goff, game on the line. And then how about Jim Harbaugh? Jim Harbaugh going for 2 as opposed to taking the tie. And it blew up in their face, and they lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers yesterday. That could be a huge loss for the Ravens when it comes to the top of the AFC. Home field advantage, what's happening for the playoffs. They've had a couple bad losses. That one in prime time to Miami was ugly. And when you think about how bad Pittsburgh looked last week when they got embarrassed by the Cincinnati Bengals, listen, if I'm Jim Harbaugh, I would have been more than happy to go to overtime because I would have believed in my team a lot more than the Steelers. But they end up taking an L in the division, and somehow the Steelers still hang around that playoff line.
Yeah, and I know Roethlisberger, I mean, he had a brutal game last week. And you have to wonder if you want to go up against him in overtime. But, I mean, if you're at the 2 and we've got Lamar Jackson, you figure you could try to punch it in. It seems you're not going to have a better chance to win than that, and they couldn't do it. So it's been a weird year for Steelers. They're kind of, I don't know if they're in transition here, but, interesting call yesterday. I mean, I was at the game as well. I saw most of the early portion, but I'm trying to think if there's anything else notable. There weren't any crazy upsets here, I don't think. But,
but the WFT keep on rolling. 4 in a row. They're now in a playoff spot. The 6 and 7 spots in the NFC right now are held by the Washington Football Club and the Niners. Niners are 6 and 6 after losing yesterday to the Seattle Seahawks, who got their 4th win of the season. We mentioned that Steelers-Ravens game 20-19 for Pittsburgh. The Rams crushed the Jags in a get-right game. They won 37-7. Jonathan Taylor, another couple touchdowns as the Colts beat the Texans 31-zip. The Eagles with Gardner Minshew back. Minshew looking amazing yesterday, Reem. 20-25 for 242 and 2 touchdowns. And the Eagles get a win against, you wonder, I look at what's happening with the Saints right now, and you just wonder if the Saints were able to get a guy like Minshew as opposed to what they've been using in the absence of Jameis Winston, how much different that team would look.
Yeah, they got him, I don't want to say for free, but they got him, right before the season, so Hurts
like
goes
a
down.
6th round pick or something like that?
Yeah, and the Saints, Winston went down. They went with Taysom Hill, Trevor Siemian. I mean, a bunch of yuck there. So we'll see. We'll see. I saw Minshew was fired up. He's always pretty good for social media. I don't know if it's the mustache or his name or
it's
what
everything.
It is.
His style, his swag, the stash for sure. It was the mullet that he had for a long time. I'm a big Minshew guy. It was great to see him. All right, so we're going to get to the cool bet lines. We're just about at 3 o'clock. But listen, for everybody in the chat who went to both games yesterday, I want to recognize the hardos that were there outside at the Bomber game and then ended up making it to the Jet game. There's a few people on my bus. One guy actually changed out of Bomber gear into Leaf gear on Winnipeg Transit. He got a bit of a hard time from everyone on the bus overall. Ken 007 did both games. Traffic got me dropped off as Anthem was being sung. Definitely worth the patience getting out of the stadium. Mike Wynn. Shout out to Mike, section 316. My guy's got a seats just a couple down from me. Mike Wynn was at both. What a blast. Absolutely, Mike was at both. I certainly could get that. Joe beat Porn Stars won. Chris Vermette. Saw Chris last night. Yes, sir. Walked right in time for the Wheeler ceremony. I got to give a quick shout out to Winnipeg Transit, to be honest. I'm not sure. I know there's a lot of people that get to games in a number of different ways. We took the rapid transit from Osborne to the game on the blue line. It took about 15 minutes. That second segment of the rapid transit's open right now. It was phenomenal. And then on the way back, I think I was probably door to door from the stadium to inside Canada Life Center in not more than 25 minutes. Amazing. Certainly recommend that, especially if you don't want to be driving or don't want to deal with parking. It is a great, great option. And I'll tell you what, after Bomber games, those bus rides home are very, very fun. All right, let's get to the cool bet lines for tonight. Well, first off, let's get to the line that we really care about. And that, of course, is the Grey Cup. The line is up. Your Winnipeg Blue Bombers are 4-point favorites in the Grey Cup, taking on the Hamilton Tiger Cats, who are playing at home. So 4 is the number. The over-under on the game is 43.5. And the money line, just to win the game, Bombers minus 200. So essentially, you'd have to lay 200 to win 100 if you just want them to win the game. Ticats, for that matter, plus 160. Underdogs to win. So a $100 bet would bring back 260. You'd win 160 on it. Man, I can't wait for this NFL game tonight. I think, like many people, we all need a rest, some R&R, and we've got a hell of a matchup tonight, man. AFC East lead on the line. Mac Jones and the New England Patriots, winners of 6 straight games, head in to take on the Buffalo Bills. The Mafia will be ready. The big question is, will Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills be ready for the resurgent Patriots? Bills, 3-point favorites tonight, Remo. I can't wait for this game. What do you think?
Yeah, the first, aren't the Patriots in first place with Mac Jones not at quarterback? Is that correct? The Bills, I think they've been kind of disappointing. They lost to Jacksonville. They haven't really got the offense going. Bills are at home. I think I'm leaning Bills. I'm not sure. They can't really run the ball, though. That's the thing. That is the thing with the Bills. So maybe the Patriots are more well-rounded here.
So of course you can use the promo code WST if you've never bet at CoolBet before. Get a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. And shout out to everyone that rode yesterday. We didn't get the cover with the Bombers. The under, though, with the best bet definitely did cash. And then Of course, a nice win for the Jets, I think, made some people some money. And then if you parlayed that with the Chiefs to cover, like I threw it on Twitter, it was a nice little just about 3-1 number to take us into the week. I'm on the Bills tonight. I actually liked it a little bit better at 2.5, and I think you can still get 2.5. Minus 118 on minus 2.5 for the Bills. I think that's where I'm going to go. But I do expect this game to be tight, and I expect it to be a great game. Patriots 8-4, Bills 7-4 right now. So a win for the Pats would put them a game and a half up on the Bills. A Bills head-to-head win would put them back into sole possession of first place, and the Pats would have an extra loss on the season. Remo, before we go, I just realized, did you see the special commemorative poster last night from the game?
There was a poster? Oh, man. No, I did not.
There was a poster, end of the
it.
game. I haven't seen it either. I've yet to open this. So this would be a little WST unboxing, if you will. This, I have to assume it's a Blake Wheeler poster from the end of the game. But they handed these out on the way out last night. So here we are. Oh, I think it's going to go up this way.
Oh, that's the picture that he was given. That
is the picture that he was given. So there you have it. Am I doing a good job? Have it? Blake, 1K. Very, very nice poster, I will say. This is good quality. So for those of you fans that got it, you were wondering what it was, or people that want to get their hands on one of them, I'm sure there's a few out there. You might be able to track it down. But once again, from all of us at WST, congrats to the captain. Nice win for the team. Couple big wins on the weekend. And, man, tomorrow, Remo, I can't wait. We got a huge game. Carolina Hurricanes. Been looking forward to seeing them in person all week long. And they're coming to the peg as the Jets try to continue, the positive results in the standings and certainly on the scoreboard as of late.
Yeah, Carolina's been very good. They had Niederreiter, Aho, Teravainen lining up. Seth Jarvis, Winnipeggers, having, I don't want to say a breakout season, but he's having a very good start to his NHL career. So we'll see about them. Before we go, we did have the, I knew it was going to be big TV ratings for the games yesterday.
I haven't seen these yet. Adam Seaborn, is Adam on it?
He's on it.
Hit us with them. How many people watched this game? I knew they had over 1 million for the Rider Calgary game the week before. How did that one finish up yesterday for Bombers Riders?
The Western Final, 1.346 million.
Nice.
That's pretty good.
Was that the number one sports thing on the weekend?
Yeah, that was number one sports thing yesterday. I'm assuming that's the weekend. No, Leafs Wild on Saturday, I think, was just like 50,000 more.
Okay.
60,000 more. And then, but the thing is, I mean, you compare it, the Western Finals on TSN, and that Leafs Wild game is on CBC. So you're comparing cable to, or basic cable to like subscription cable with TSN. And then the Leafs Jets on TSN 4 and TSN 3 yesterday, regional game, 878,000, which is pretty impressive as well. And he also did compare he compared this year's Western Final to 2019, and 2019 was 1.6 million, and the 2021 was 1.3 million. So it was a bit down from 2019, but still, I mean, CFL, people come in, you're like, oh, no one cares. I mean, the CFL gets the highest ratings of sports among sports in Canada. It's pretty incredible. And someone's asking what the East Final. East Final was, it was 850,000, 846,000.
850. And again, all that's going up. It's interesting. And I've never had a hot take on the division, the conference final games as far as when they're played. But it was amazing how many people hit me up on the weekend and asked me what I thought about, would these games be better off played on Saturday? I don't really have an answer for that. I mean, Grey Cup is on Sunday, so to have these two games before on Sunday, I mean, I don't have an issue with it, but I would be here for the conversation as to why they might be better on Saturday. Of course, this dates back to the Banjo Bowl conversation. We thought would be a lot better off on Saturday, and it has been so much better moving to Saturday. But of course, the Vanier Cup was on this Saturday. You'd have to work around that. You certainly don't want to be programming, conference or division championship games in the CFL against the university championship. But I think the date probably would work better for a lot of people. And then again, you don't have to go up against the National Football League, which I don't think is a huge concern when you're talking about games of this importance. But I'll tell you what, I have a feeling you might get more viewers, just people that you wouldn't be losing to the NFL. So that'll be interesting. I'm sure that might be a topic when we get to talk about everything going on in Hamilton. And Randy Ambrosi, of course, will be speaking State of the League. So many of those questions I think will be touched on by Hammer and many of the other reporters that will be out there. Well, I knew today was going to be a great show, Remis. Shout out to everyone that joined us here. By the way, if you haven't already hit that thumbs up button, please do. And if you're new, we're here every day, 1 to 3 on YouTube. We get the podcast up by about 3:30. So hit that red subscribe button. Make sure you're joining us on a daily basis here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. And I know this was all about yesterday, an incredibly special sports day for Winnipeg and Winnipeg fans. But Remo, this is just the start of Grey Cup week, and the Bombers are going back to the dance, looking to run it back.
Yeah, this is super exciting. I'm getting giddy at the thought of another parade here, another Bombers championship. I mean, since I've been, this would be the second one in like 30 years, because we had the other one 2019, but it was a long gap. It was a long gap of terrible football, and we always have fun writing in, the number of quarterbacks the Bombers use, like between 2010. In between Kahari Jones and Matt Nichols, the number of quarterbacks that they used, and the dark years before they brought in O'Shea and Kyle Walters. It's incredible to think that this team is the favorite in the Grey Cup and could repeat back to back. It is kind of hard to believe when you put it like that.
Where's Joe Mack today? I wonder if he watched the game. Look at what's happened to this team since he got booted from the Bomber organization and the Canadian Mafia took over. Hey, one more win for the Bombers. And, we'll be talking about this team and this group of players in a pretty rarefied air. And as far as Mike O'Shea goes, and this will be something we'll talk about as we get closer to the game, what a win does for Mike O'Shea in the history of the Winnipeg Football Club and the potential to truly become a legend in this city. And I think we can start having this conversation with what they've done so far this year, especially if they can get that win. And who knows, in a few years, we might be talking about Mike O'Shea as sort of that modern day Bud Grant, a guy that, put his stamp on this football team and led them to incredible heights that, we hadn't seen around here in 30 years. So Grey Cup week is on. The Bombers are heading to Hamilton tomorrow. We'll be all over it here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. And, of course, lots coming up on the Jets as they finish up this homestand tomorrow against the Carolina Hurricanes. Oh, I do want to give a shout-out to Canadian Club, by the way. And everyone, I do Candace and the gang. Some people popped by and picked up hoodies and rye packages on the weekend. Big thanks to Canadian Club. We talked a lot about the crowd last night. I'd love to hear some of the concession numbers and how much CC was poured yesterday at the game. I would say that we could have been pushing record numbers of that. Of course, Canadian Club, the official whiskey of the Bombers, official spirit of us here at Winnipeg Sports Talk, available at IG Field. And certainly, if you want to keep those good vibes going, pick up some CC for the game on Sunday when you're entertaining or watching with all of your friends. Of course, Canadian Club is available at your local Winnipeg liquor marts. Remo, you just mentioned about the iPads. Let's finish off with this because I know we've gone long. We got to get the pod out. But I was, Arthur Bignell, I'm not sure where Arthur is, but a loyal listener of the show saw me in the concourse, said, Huss, I want to grab you a beer. Okay, twist my rubber arm. Sounds good, Arthur. He orders a CC. I order a beer. And it took probably 10 minutes to pay, because the iPads were freezing. And if there was ever a time, I told you that going cashless was not a great idea, just simply for the speed of everything. They should have figured that one out beforehand and had the option to pay in cash. And I guess you were saying some of them, they just had to basically throw in the towel and start taking cash. That didn't happen at the one I was at, but they should have.
Yeah, someone told me they went to go get a concession item. The point of sale system, which are iPads, froze and were non-functional. So I thought that just shows you how cold
Well,
that it was.
And you know what? And shout out to those bartenders. I mean, that was the one that I was talking about, was the one just inside the doors in that north end zone where we were getting basically wind tunnel treatment, and it was absolutely Arctic. And man, they just kept on pouring drinks, doing their job in, I mean, they should have been getting danger pay yesterday. That was... That would have been a long, long afternoon for them. All right, gang. Thanks to everyone that joined us today. What a fun show this was, and what a fun week we've got coming up. Tomorrow, Bombers head to Hamilton. Jets host the Carolina Hurricanes. We'll wrap the week in the National Football League and more. Tell a friend about Winnipeg Sports Talk. If you haven't already, hit that thumbs up button. We'd love to get to 300 for the episode. Make sure that you have hit the red subscribe button, and we'll see you tomorrow on YouTube at 1 o'clock here on Winnipeg Sports Talk on YouTube, and of course in the podcast later on in the afternoon. Big shout out to all of our sponsors: Vita Health Fresh Market, F Apparel, Culligan Water, Manitoba Battery, Royal Sports, Not Autocorp, Little Brown Jug Brewing, Princess Auto, Boston Pizza, the Nick and Nicky DQ Group, Canadian Club Whiskey, and of course our betting partner, Cool Bet Canada. Folks, get some rest tonight. You probably need it. We'll see you tomorrow. Getting ready for Jets, Canes, and the Bombers heading to Hamilton on Tuesday's Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Thanks for being with us.
Oh my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.